Met makes voluntary referrals to IOPC following complaints about Mohamed Al-Fayed investigations. The Metropolitan Police Service has voluntarily referred 2 cases to the Independent Office for Police Conduct, IOPC, after receiving complaints from 2 women regarding prior police investigations into allegations against Mohamed Al-Fayed. These complaints, involving investigations from 2008 and 2013, address concerns about the quality of police response and, in the case of the 2013 investigation, how details came to be disclosed publicly. Commander Stephen Clayman, from the Met Specialist Crime Team, said, "We are actively reviewing 21 allegations reported to the Metropolitan Police prior to Mohamed Al-Fayed's passing, as well as the related police investigations, to determine if any additional investigative steps are available or there are things we could have done better. This process remains active, and we are committed to assessing all new allegations, pursuing justice where possible and transparently addressing any failings." In recent weeks, 2 victim survivors have come forward with concerns about how their allegations were handled when first reported, and it is only appropriate that the IOPC assess these complaints. Although we cannot change the past, we are resolute in our goal to offer every individual who contacts us the highest standard of service and support. I encourage anyone with relevant information, whether you were personally affected or have knowledge about others who may have facilitated Al-Fayed's actions, to contact us. Our priority remains to ensure that no stone is left unturned in the pursuit of justice. Background. In addition to the 21 pre-existing allegations against Al-Fayed, the MPS has received new reports since renewed media interest. Specialist officers are reviewing all information to determine if other individuals may be subject to investigation for related criminal offences. The MPS offers several ways to report information. Call the Complex Investigation Team directly at 0208-217-6582 or 6586. Call 101 anytime and quote reference CAD 1920-26 SEP. Email the Complex Investigation Team at cscmailbox.complexinvestigationteam@met.pnn.police.uk. Visit our online portal to provide information anonymously. Mohamed Al-Fayed has been accusing the royals of involvement in Diana, Princess of Wales, and his son's death on the 31st of August 1997. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment. Like, share and subscribe for more open news now. Since his death, allegations from over 400 women accusing Al-Fayed of abuse spanning decades have been making headlines. Al-Fayed died aged 94 on the 30th of August 2023.
Lawyers in the sexual abuse case against the late billionaire Mohamed Al-Fayed say more than 400 alleged victims have now come forward. The legal team held a news conference just last hour in London. 3 of those alleged victims appeared in person carrying Harrods bags with the logos crossed out, as you can see in these pictures. Mohamed Al-Fayed was the former owner of Harrods. Many of his accusers are former employees. He died last year at the age of 94, and the allegations against him include rape, sexual battery, sexual abuse of minors. Crystal Gamansing is live in London. As she was attending that news conference, we got these brand new details from investigators and lawyers. Crystal, what have we learned today?
Well, Heather, we are learning that this legal case is really expanding. Now, the lawyers for the Harrods survivors say they are not only looking at Harrods, that world-famous department store, which was owned by Mohamed Al-Fayed between 1985 and 2010, but they're now also looking at the Al-Fayed estate and the women's Fulham Football Club. And that is because so many more complainants, 421 individuals, have reached out to these lawyers with complaints against Al-Fayed. Now, they, with those complaints coming forward, they're looking at all of these other entities that they say Al-Fayed had his, quote, tentacles in. One of those individuals at the Fulham Football Club was the 20-year-old captain at the time, Ronnie Gibbons. And Ronnie says that she was sexually assaulted by Al-Fayed back when she was the captain of the team. She recorded a video message and talked about how she now feels that she has the strength to come forward and share her details and her story because of the other survivors. And I want to play a little bit of that recorded message from her.
I would have really liked to have met some of the other amazingly brave ladies who are speaking up about Mohamed Al-Fayed and his appalling behaviour. Seeing you speak helped me to have the courage to get in touch with the barristers. And as difficult as it's been very empowering. And I know that by speaking out, we're making it harder for this kind of behaviour to be tolerated anywhere. I know we are making it easier for others to speak up.
Now, the lawyers say that these organizations had a responsibility to protect their employees and that they failed all of these women. We can say of that 421 individuals, about 25 of those are not making direct claims on their behalf, but are providing witness testimony and documentations to support the abuse allegations. Important to note that none of these allegations can be proven in court. As you mentioned, Al-Fayed passed away last year. But the scale of this investigation and the number of women coming forward is being described as shocking. In fact, one of the lawyers, Bruce Drummond, called it industrial in scale.
In our opinion, is an industrial scale abuse. Abuse that could have only been perpetrated with a system that enabled the abuse to happen. And that is what is so key to this case and why this case, as I've said before, in many ways is the worst case of corporate sexual abuse of women that the world has ever known.
Now, these numbers are likely to change, according to the lawyers, saying every day they're being contacted by more individuals. We went from 37 original women who had, retained the legal team back in September. That number is rising. They now have more than 160 individuals from that 400 who have signed on. So it is really continuing to develop, Heather.
And any idea what's going to come next in this case, Crystal?
Yeah, so a big part of this case was actually the very first statement of claim being filed against Harrods. That was filed today. It involves one of the Harrods survivors. The lawyers say there will be a continuous flow of those statement of claims being filed at this point. And they have said that they've also engaged another law firm, a very large law firm, to help ensure all of these claims can be processed in a timely manner.
Crystal Gamansing live in London. Thank you very much.
The number of victims keeps rising. The failures to stop Mohamed Al-Fayed become abundantly clear. The Crown Prosecution Service, the latest, deciding not to prosecute him in both 2009 and 2015 after being passed files by the police. The Victims Commissioner at the time firmly blaming the culture inside the CPS.
Frankly, the CPS then were a sort of dustbin into which complaints about gender violence just fell. It was like negativity was what surrounded them. That is a very symptomatic story of the way the CPS defend themselves when they should have prosecuted and they haven't.
There have been multiple attempts to expose Fayed. In 1995, he sued Vanity Fair after it alleged sexual misconduct and racism. 2 years later, a documentary shared multiple employees' stories. Over a decade later, a 15-year-old reported an assault to the police, but the CPS dropped the case. Another case was dropped in 2015. 2 documentaries alleging sexual abuse followed in 2017 and 2018. And in 2018, 2021 and 2023, the Met Police asked the CPS for advice on investigating Fayed. Only now, with a new documentary, are those who turned a blind eye being held to account.
There was a systematic enabling of the recruitment of vulnerable women for the purposes of their sexual exploitation by Mohamed Al-Fayed within the Harrods organisation.
With his death last year, those who were abused feel freer to speak. Al-Fayed using his wealth to frighten those who tried to report him.
And wherever he was, it was hunting ground for him. He acted with impunity. The problem that many of journalists found in bringing Fayed to book were, of course, the libel laws, which were pretty draconian. But worst of all, the judges were unwilling, very often, and mostly, to actually side with the journalists against people like Fayed.
Senior executives who used to work at Harrods have told us how toxic and unpleasant it was to work for Al-Fayed, with one describing his behaviour generally towards people as abhorrent, and that's before you even consider the sexual abuse. He thought that he was untouchable, and there were people around him prepared to help keep it that way.
I own the shop, and no one ever will be able to take it away from me. Only God.
His generous donations to charities were part of his front. Cancer Research UK among those saying they'll now reconsider their future links with his foundation. For too long, his victims suffered, their courage to stand up only ignored. Now those who could have stopped Al-Fayed sooner in his absence must answer for him. Rhiannon Mills, Sky News.